Good evening, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us. Our program will begin in just a few minutes. We'll be streaming this event through Facebook Live as well as Zoom webinar. So we encourage you to share that stream with your friends and family. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll get started soon. For those of you just joining us, welcome. We will begin our program very shortly. A reminder that we're also streaming this event through Facebook Live, so we encourage you to share that stream with your family and friends. Thank you again for joining us. All right, well, hi everyone. Before we begin, I would like to announce to our Zoom audience that live Spanish interpretation for this event is available. To listen to this presentation in Spanish, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen and select your language of choice. I will now invite Lieutenant Franco to repeat these directions in Spanish.
Buenas noches, queremos empezar diciéndoles que esta presentación será traducida en español. Si gustarían escuchar la presentación en español, por favor presionen el botón de español que está localizado abajo de su pantalla y escojan el lenguaje que quisieran escuchar.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Well, good evening, Stockton Unified Community, and welcome to our 6th session of SUSD Talks with Interim Superintendent Biedermann and team. My name is Veronica Lynch, and I'm a communications specialist for Stockton Unified School District. And I'm so honored to be here live with you. Tonight, I'm joined by a number of amazing panelists. We have Mr. Brian Biedermann, Interim Superintendent, Mr. Chris Anderson, our COVID Coordinator, Mrs. Tamara Pronitis, Interim Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Eric Swanson, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Connor Sloan, Director of Lcap, Dr. Francine Baird, Interim Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Dr. Katrina Leone, our Interim Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Lieutenant Myra Franco from our Department of Public Safety, Mrs. Claudia Moreno, our Director of Labor Relations, and Ms. Janet Yarborough, Director of State and Federal and After-School Programming. Our program this evening will last about an hour and a half, and we'll begin with an overview of distance learning in SUSD. After a few other updates from the team, we'll be taking questions from the community. Now, whether you're tuning in through Facebook Live or through our Zoom webinar, we welcome your questions. To our Facebook audience, you can participate by using the comment section. We are monitoring the chat, so just comment with your question and we'll add it to our question queue. To our Zoom audience, you can participate using our Zoom chat. To submit a question to our panel, just click the Q&A button down below on your screen. Now, with such a large number of participants tonight, we may not be able to get to every question we receive, but we will do our best to answer as many as we can tonight and hear from as many of our community members as possible. Now, before we get started, we'd like to take the opportunity to see who is joining us this evening with a quick poll. So please select your role in SUSD. Are you a parent and guardian, a student, a caregiver, an employee, a board member, or a community member? If you're on Facebook, you can also participate in this poll by commenting what your role is. And we'll keep this open for another 15 seconds. We have a large number of employees always representing strong during these events. Thanks so much for being here. And we're really excited to see so many parents as well and guardians. Great. Well, regardless of your role, thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to join us this evening. It is now my distinct privilege to turn it over to Interim Superintendent Brian Biedermann.
Thank you, Veronica, and great job. Veronica, nice job tonight. Thank you for attending our first SUSD talks of the new year. So happy New Year. Not only am I fortunate enough to lead our district in a community that I love, I have an amazing team with me here tonight to answer any questions that you may have regarding COVID or our return to school. Very thankful for you attending tonight. And I'm going to go through a quick PowerPoint presentation to show you our recent COVID numbers and where we're at as a district, and then transition into a video so our parents can see our readiness on school sites and what a classroom will look like when your students do return. So if you will bear with my transition here. All right, this is our COVID-19 update as of today, and this is thank you to Dr. Park and her team for putting this data together for us. If you're looking at our data in the county, I think Dr. Park referred to this as we're in a surge on top of a surge. We are still in a stay-at-home order. Our governor extended our stay-at-home order that he had us in while we were on winter break. The numbers in our county are, you can see, and mind you, this is old data because they're still collecting data from over the break, but you can see the spike was quite a bit bigger than it was in the summer. We are currently over 50,000 cases in our city with under 700 deaths. So this is a very serious matter. Everything that we have been talking about in our talks about kind of all the precautions that we're doing with social distancing, wearing masks, PPE, that is all still very much in place and very important if we ever expect to get our numbers down and it's safe enough for us to return. So this is just giving you an idea of the urgency in our county right now as far as the exposures and death rate. If you're looking at the next slide, this is our hospitalization rate. And this is important because this is what our stay-at-home order is based on. It's based on number of ICU beds available. Currently, we're operating at 167% capacity of our ICU beds, which means that we have 97 in there's 7 county hospitals in San Joaquin County. That's giving you data and perspective on what's available. Right now, there is nothing available. So if we get worse and more people are getting sick and more people need ICU bed, the capacity is simply not there. So that's why we're still in the stay-at-home order. Whether or not that gets extended or lifted in the next couple of weeks is entirely up to the governor and the number of beds that are available in our county. And this just gives you a more perspective since December, where you see those numbers of 0, 0, 0. Those are the amount of beds that they're just not available. So we have to do everything that we can in order to maintain or curb the numbers. So not only do we stay safe, but eventually get our students back into school into live instruction. We're just simply not there yet. We have to do a lot of work in order to get our numbers down in our county, and that's that social distancing. That's that wearing of the mask. That's doing everything that you can, all those precautions in order to stay safe and stay healthy. What is new is that if you've been paying attention to the news, very good news is that the vaccines are here. And right now we are in phase 1A. For those of you who can see this graph, and this has been updated, and I'll tell you that in the update in a minute. So this isn't 100% accurate, but all of our healthcare workers, our doctors, our frontline people are starting to get the vaccines now. We're hoping that this curbs the surge that we're currently in. If you heard Gavin Newsom, our governor, speak, we're no longer in a marathon. We're in a sprint, hopefully to the end of COVID, where we can return to a sense of normalcy in our county and hopefully with education. What's important for us in education and our students and faculty and staff members on the line is that phase 1B tier 1. If you look into that phase 1B tier 1, which is that yellow box in the middle, that's where you see education and childcare. That's where our staff would start to receive vaccines, our teachers, our custodians, our food service workers, our administrators. They say right now, today, we're about 4 weeks away from that potential deployment of vaccines for our system. Now, I say 4 weeks tentatively because you know anything about COVID, 4 weeks could turn into 10 weeks. But as of right now, what we're hearing, and we're predicting about a 4-week start to the vaccinations for the schools in our county. And that would be primarily through the San Joaquin County Office of Ed and we are going to be in coordination with them to deploy our employees to them to get the vaccinations because they have the cold storage facilities in order to do so. We are going to have a big campaign in the next couple of weeks to really promote this, the importance of the vaccines. There's a lot of false information on social media and online of what the vaccine is or isn't. So we're going to put out videos and information that tells you specifically what it is and encourage people to get this, because this is another mechanism for us to get back to school. It's not only lowering our numbers and keeping the exposure rates down, it's eventually vaccinating staff members and students in order to safely return. A lot of good work to be done there, but we need to encourage our community that once we do have the vaccines available, we need to absolutely take advantage of them so we can get our kids back in school. The only change in this graph that you may see is that tier 1 and tier 2, the people under the age of 60 or over the age of 65 has been moved into tier 1. So there's a flip there with the 65 and 75. Other than that, this is accurate. So as soon as we get more information, we're going to give that out to our community. And again, that campaign is coming to promote what the vaccine is, the accuracy, and encourage people to get it once we're there. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint here. And then we thought it would be a great idea if we give our staff, our students, our parents a glimpse into what school is going to look like, because there's a lot of like, well, I may not want to go to school because I don't know what class is going to look like, or I don't know how the transitions are, or how do I enter campus during COVID. So we're going to give you a quick video that Acting Principal Monica Gale at Edison made. It's 4 minutes, so bear with it. And then once that video is over, we're going to transition to our other amazing teammates on the call tonight before we answer your questions. So I'm going to share my screen again, so I apologize for the transition.
I'm Monica Gale, principal here at Edison High School. We are here today to describe and review some safety procedures and new school norms for when students return to campus for live instruction. Parents and students, please review our school return plans as well as the Stockton Unified Health and Safety Hybrid Distance Learning Guides. You can find these at the district website. You can also find it at Edison High School's website. Because safety starts at home, we require all students to complete the daily symptom check before coming to school. Self-check for symptoms of COVID will include a fever of over 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, cough, nausea, vomiting, difficulty breathing, loss of taste or smell. Any symptoms associated with COVID-19, please stay home. Students arriving with these symptoms will be sent home. We need to keep everyone safe. You can see behind me that we have located entrance and exit points throughout the school. We also have markers to indicate social distancing of 6 feet apart. If you need to come into the main office, there are procedures here too. As we walk in the main office, you see markers on the ground to ensure physical distancing. Remember, 6 feet apart at all times. When you walk through the office, you'll notice that we have hand sanitizing stations. We have plexiglass for employees, student, and parent protection. If for some reason you do not have a face mask, we also have this provided as well. Up front, we have hand sanitizer, mask, and a sign-in procedure for you. Throughout campus, there is signage for travel procedures to and from class to avoid bottlenecking and grouping of students and maintain social distancing. Students must transition to class directly. They are not to gather in groups outside or in the halls. In the classrooms, you'll notice that there is hand sanitizer, plexiglass shields for students and teacher protection. Some classrooms, if there is a sink, students can wash their hands there. If not, students can use the hand sanitizer stations as they enter the room. When students enter the room, we encourage them to clean their space with the materials at the entrance door. Water fountains are covered and are not allowed to be used. Therefore, students must bring water bottles with them to school every day. Again, students are to remain 6 feet apart. In the restrooms, the stalls you will notice are taped off for physical social distancing. The restrooms are cleaned hourly. Students that arrive to school and report signs of sickness will report to the health office. This year, Stockton Unified has updated all the HVAC units to include MERV 13 filters, increased the airflow, and installed air ionizers to help purify the classroom air. Students will receive a grab-and-go lunch that will be distributed in multiple areas to avoid crowding as students exit for dismissal. Please remember, stay kind, stay patient, and stay safe. And this too shall pass.
A real quick shout out to the Edison team and Principal Gail for making that amazing video. That's going to be one of many videos as we make videos
This is
for.
not good. All right. Find there it is in med bay. Careful. We've got a killer in med bay.
Oh,
You're back, Brian.
am I back?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Technology is your friend. All right. I apologize for that. I forgot to turn the YouTube video off. I just want to give a quick shout out to the Edison team for that. You're going to see many videos as we get ready and closer to the return to live instruction for our district, for every school, so parents can have an idea so they can make an informed decision on whether it's safe for their children to come, because there you will have a choice. Can I stay on distance learning or can I come back to school? We're still surveying our communities so that we get that data so we know what's going to come back. We have a couple of updates before I transition back to Veronica. We were in labor negotiations with our teacher leaders, our Teachers Association. We had a tentative return date of the end of this month. Obviously, based on numbers, that is no longer plausible, and we're still in the stay-at-home order. So we're going to continue to meet with our labor in order to finalize a potential return date that's going to be pushed back from the end of January. We do, however, have our cohorts that have been approved that can start after school. So when schools exit around 2:30, the students, once these get rolled out, and it's probably going to be at the end of this month, we're just waiting on the data to go down and that trigger language there. But once that rolls out, students will be able to come onto campuses after school to get support, tutoring, additional opportunities at grade recovery, credit recovery, those types of things. And when I say cohort, that's a 16, so a 15-to-1 ratio, a 14-to-2 ratio. That will be happening at all school sites, hopefully by the end of this month. As again, we go into negotiations with our teachers, but that's been a preliminary approval right there. We're just waiting on the start date, so that should happen relatively soon. So with that, I'll stop talking, Veronica. I'll turn it over to you for additional introductions from our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biedermann. And next up, we have comments from Mr. Chris Anderson, our COVID coordinator.
Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate everybody being with us here tonight. We do have some consistent messages about COVID and our practices at our schools. A lot of the information you just saw from Mr. Biedermann really helps us make informed decisions on the next steps that we're going to take to make sure we safely return all of our students and our staff members back to our campuses, especially as you saw in the middle of a surge that's quite concerning. So I always recommend that everyone refer to our SUSD health and safety guides on the district website. You can always go to the front of the district website and click under our COVID-19 section, and you will find the health and safety guides as well as the hybrid and distance learning guides. Now, of course, these guides are never set in stone. These are always changing information and updating as we go along. And we'll refer a little bit to our site plans as we go along. But some of the things we've alluded to in the past to ensure that we provide the means to bring back students when the time is right and under the conditions that are acceptable for all kids and parents. again, like Mr. Biedermann or Superintendent Biedermann did mention, everybody's going to be able to choose their actual setting for instruction while we're still in this pandemic. Of course, one day we'll be able to look back and hopefully this will be a distant memory of 2020 and the new clean 2021 will set and we'll be able to move on with our lives. But in the meantime, some of the things that we have available are updates in our HVA systems are almost completely done and ready for students to come back on school. So all of our air purifiers have been installed in all of our HVAC units. Of course, we're still waiting some of those MERV 13 filters, but a lot of those have been installed as well. So when you come back to our campus, you can see a much more cleaner and purified air system in our classrooms. Our PPE supplies have been distributed to all of our sites, including plastic shields that you saw on some of the desks at Edison High School. Each teacher will also have a plastic shield as well to mitigate those droplets that may still be in the air before they become ventilated and purified. Again, we also recommend that the healthy hygiene practices are practiced not only at school, but also at home. And remember to wear your mask and wash your hands as consistently as you can. It's recommended 20 seconds of hot water using towels to dry your hands as much as you can. We are looking forward to our cohorts coming back to campus, and that should be in the next couple of weeks here, where the most needy students who need assistance should get that direct instruction and help from our teachers. So our sites are starting to reach out to the parents of those students and asking if they would be part of our cohorts that come back to our campuses for a while. Those cohorts exist for about 15 to 1, where there's one teacher and maybe two teachers to ensure that we're not contaminating different groups of students and making sure that it's as safe as possible. So your sites, and you can always call your school site and inquire about a cohort. It really depends on the teachers signing up for those after school practices. So you'll see that information come out in the coming days and weeks. We are expecting a full return to campus whenever it is safe, and it is a little different than the cohort. We did utilize a survey to find out how many parents were choosing to send students back to school, and it's going to be a continuing effort. We didn't get as much a response as we want, so we do request that you contact the school site and really confirm your intention. And it's different for every family, and that's totally respected by Stockton Unified. This will help in planning purposes to determine where student classrooms are, how to outfit those classrooms, what those needs are. So really call the school site and email your administrators and find out and let them know if you choose to return to school when the time is right. In the coming days, you can see a lot of our sites starting to post their site plans. Several principals have finalized their site plans. They're going to be putting them up on the website. I highly encourage everybody during this time where we're not actually at school to take the time and review all of those plans to make sure you understand what the specific measures are on campus, just as Edison outlined in their video. Again, you'll see school return videos for every site that are going to be posted in the coming weeks as well, because a visual is always better than actually reading through a 40-page document. So I highly suggest you watch some of those videos and become familiar with the practices and new norms that you're going to see on our campuses. We're also going to be developing an SUSD COVID dashboard so we can keep track of the outbreaks in our community and how many students, how many staff members actually are contracting COVID, so we can make better decisions and be transparent with our community to ensure everybody understands the safety of our campuses. And as always, as I depart, make sure you're washing your hands, make sure you're wearing a mask, and watch your distance, 6 feet apart at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. And that was a lot of really great information for our community, and I'm sure that there will be many questions. So I'd like to remind our Facebook audience that we are monitoring the chat. So please comment with any questions you have, and we'll add it to our question queue. And to our Zoom audience, you can leave any and all questions for us by clicking the Q&A button below on your screen. I will now like to introduce Interim Deputy Superintendent Tamara Pronitis.
Thank you, Veronica, and hey, everybody, nice to virtually see you again. I just wanted to provide a brief overview of special ed services and that get a little bit about what's happening in the special ed department. So Stockton Unified School District, of course, continues to provide distance learning for all students. For students with disabilities, with individualized education programs, aka IEPs, we are implementing your child's IEP to the greatest extent possible during the time our school campuses remain closed. So here's an overview. Special education and related services in the IEP happen through multiple modalities: online learning websites, online instructional materials, paper packets, instructional videos, and whatever methods we can get those needs fulfilled. Special ed teachers and service providers are regularly collaborating with our families through phone conferences, virtual meetings, and emails. Also, special ed teachers and service providers are constantly monitoring student progress and adjusting and accommodating and modifying needs in collaboration with teachers, as well as related service providers. So there's a little bit. I've got a couple more things before I let you go. I'm super quick tonight. SUSD is still conducting in-person assessments when needed. All initial assessments will have to be conducted in person, but many of the triennials can be done remotely through record review. IEP assessments are by appointment, and they're scheduled with assessors. The assessors will reach out to schedule the appointments with families and with guardians. And during the assessment process, all county and state health guidelines will be followed. So that's all I have for the update from the special ed world. So thanks, Veronica. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I would like now like to introduce Interim Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Mr. Eric Swanson.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, like everyone said before me, thank you for taking the time on a Thursday night to spend learning and collaborating with us and getting some questions answered regarding work and your students and your family. So I just wanted to talk briefly about what's happening on the ed services side of the house. So we've essentially entered the second half of the school year, and especially for our high schoolers on a block schedule, that means some new classes and some new schedules. What I say to my own students, and this is true not just for our high school students, but all students, make sure as we come out of the holiday break to start fast. Sometimes we are in still holiday mode when we get back to school. But the workload is similar no matter what, because we want you guys to have an opportunity to master the content in every class. So start fast, because it's a lot easier to play from the lead than play from behind, meaning if you turn in your first assignment and you get an A on it, you have an A in that class, and it's easier to maintain an A than try to grind or scratch or claw your way back to an A or to whatever grade you want to earn in that class. So start fast, guys. In your classes. For all the families on the call, you know those days during the school year where you think your student should go to school, but they don't, like this last Monday. That's a professional learning day for us here. So while your students are off, we are busy working, preparing to better serve your students in our schools. The professional development on Monday for teachers especially was focused on continuing our curriculum implementation in both math and language arts, as well as some professional development regarding the online learning applications or online learning apps that our teachers have at their fingertips and that students can utilize as well, all focused on increasing student engagement. The school leaders on Monday were focused on supporting students both academically as well as socio-emotionally. We know at the school or at the district office, as well as at all of our schools, we're in month 10, I believe, of this, and this is hard on everyone. So it's the responsibility of the leaders throughout our system to make sure that we are the rock, the shoulder to cry on, whatever it takes to make sure that our teachers and our students have everything they need to feel good and to feel successful. So we talked a little bit about that with our school leaders, as well as also covering the learning applications that teachers and students have available to them to increase engagement and opportunities for them to display their work. I spoke last time in December about our iReady online learning pathways. Our students took their mid-year diagnostics at the beginning of December, and those iReady online learning pathways have been assigned to every single student. We are recommending that each student in all of our K-8 schools spend a minimum of 45 minutes in both English language arts or ELA and mathematics 45 minutes a week on their online learning pathways. A great opportunity during what we call our asynchronous learning time, which is the time where your students are still in school, but not necessarily on Zoom with their teacher. It has shown a lot of significant data that students who are participating in their online learning pathways are showing increased academic growth, especially students that are concentrating on passing those online assessments that they're taking. So families, do what you can to get your students 45 minutes a week. That is a little bit less than 10 minutes a day in each subject to make sure that they pass their online learning pathways. If that makes no sense to any of you, that's okay. Please reach out to your student's teacher to figure out how you can get your student on their online learning pathway. Also, tutoring is available throughout our system. I can't say it any more plainly than that. If your student needs some tutoring, please make sure that you reach out to your school's teacher or school counselor because we want to make sure for all those students that are interested.
I think we're having
Except for stay safe, stay distant, and wear a mask. I'd also like to say with Martin Luther King Day coming this Monday, January 18th, I want to make sure every parent knows that that is a holiday in our system. And I'll exit with one of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So I challenge all of us on this call to go out and be the light. That is all, Veronica. And I hope you got all of that because at some point my computer said my internet was not stable. So
we did get that. Thank you so much.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Up next, we have some updates from Dr. Connor Sloan, our director of Lcap.
Thank you, Veronica. Hello, everyone. We want to take this opportunity to validate, shed value, and celebration to all the students. Thank you so much for your grit, your resilience, your focus on learning. You're supporting each other, your teachers, and your parents, guardians, and family members during this distance and remote learning times. Thank you all classified and certificated staff for all of your adaptability, flexibility, dedication, and time and commitment to our students. And thank you, parents, guardians, and family members for your understanding, your patience, your support, and being there for your children, our students. We greatly appreciate that. We wanted tonight specifically to share some overview and updates of the local control and accountability plan. An Lcap engagement forum will be held next Thursday, January 21st, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The registration link can be found, we'll put it in the chat. It can be found on our Stockton Unified School District webpage. It has been sent out through the Peach Jar, and it'll also be sent out through a call next week and emails as well. And so we greatly appreciate your engagement, your feedback, and your input in the development of the local control and accountability plan. The Lcap survey has been open since October 26th. The final day to complete the Lcap survey will be February 5th. A link to take the Lcap survey, we'll put that in the chat as well. It can also be found on the district website and all of the school websites. There's also a paper-based survey for parents, families, and guardians. If you'd like to take it by paper, that can be found by either letting your school site know or the Family Engagement and Education Office, and we can make sure to provide you with a paper-based survey if you would like. The Lcap engagement forum, stakeholder meetings, and the survey data, the analysis, the main themes from stakeholders that have been shared and identified currently are the need for academic interventions and tutoring to be provided for students after school, ongoing counseling and mental health services provided to students, social emotional learning lessons to be provided in class to students, more after school credit recovery and dual enrollment options provided and accessed by students, increase of arts and music experience provided to elementary and middle school students, food pantries and clothing closets to be provided to students at schools to provide them access to extra food and clothing, increase of hands-on learning opportunities and career-based experiences, and bilingual and academic support for English learners. Your voice matters, your feedback is valued, and we really appreciate your input that you share within the Lcap survey, you share within Lcap engagement forums, stakeholder meetings. And please attend your school site council meetings, your English Learner Advisory Committee meetings at your school sites that are connected directly to student achievement. And you can collaboratively develop the budgets and the experiences and the programs being provided to students at the school site level, as we, again, greatly celebrate and value your input and look forward to continuing partnership and ensuring that all students graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sloan. And now we will have some updates from Dr. Francine Baird, our Interim Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Good evening. And let's see, thank you so much for spending your time with us, folks, and for tuning in. Our mental health services team is actively engaging our school site administrators and their teams in the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports Program, which is also called PBIS. This school site engagement in the PBIS program supports the safe reopening of schools. We feel it is extremely important to offer our students and staff behavioral expectations and foster student support. We are dedicated to the notion that all students and staff upon return are positively engaged and aware of what safe and responsible behavior looks like. Also, in counseling, the local scholarship applications are updated and on our district website. These packets are due January 31st, so please go online to complete your packet. Don't forget, you can always check in with your school counselor. They're there to assist you. And also they're there to assist you with your FAFSA seniors. So make sure you get on there and complete that as well. Our school counselors are standing by to assist you. Also, as Dr. Connor Sloan said, families, please fill out your Lcap survey to have your voices heard. This is very important, and it's the way that you can go ahead and say what your students need with it from the district. And in our health services department, our team would like our community to know that we have started the process of vaccinating our district's health service providers. Our district has approximately 40 RN and LVNs preparing themselves to assist in the vaccination of our school teachers and staff as we prepare for a safe return to our school sites. That's pretty much it. I tried to keep it short and sweet as well. So I appreciate your time and attention, and thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Dr. Baird. Well, that's all the presentations we have for tonight. So we will go ahead and move this program along to our Q&A. If you haven't already, please drop your questions for us in the Facebook comment section or use the Zoom Q&A button below. To get started, let's take a look inside of our Zoom. We have a question that says, I have a lot of clothes to donate. Where can we drop them off?
We have the Edison Closet is one of examples of places where you can take and drop off clothes. I know that there may be other school sites that may have also where they have clothes that they actually keep there. There's always other places. Obviously, St. Mary's Interfaith has a big closet need for clothing for the homeless and the needy. So there's different locations. Please feel free to contact Edison High School if you need ideas into where to drop off some nice clothes.
Thank you, Mrs. Moreno. Next question is, what about children who have allergies or asthma or who cough all the time? Do they just need to stay home, or do they need a note from the doctor when students go back to school?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a decision that you can really make personally with whether that's the right environment for your student. There's also nurses that can set up definite specific plans for returning to school, because we don't want to turn anybody away for whatever reason. If somebody wants to come back to school, we're always going to allow that. You know, so I think the nurse could help out with that. There can be probably some different areas of the school that are allowable for each student that has some specific care needs. So yeah, I think reaching out to the school site and seeing what plans they can develop will go a long way with that. But if it is a concern with that parent, you may want to continue on hybrid learning until those vaccines kick in. It's just one of those things that is going to be personal for each kid and parent.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. The next question is kind of a follow-up to that as well. Will those children whose parents have opted for back to school in-person learning be required to get the vaccination as well before they return to campus?
Right now, that is not a condition of bringing students back onto our campus. Of course, we hope that That'll bring more students back to our campus when the vaccine is readily available. And like Superintendent Biedermann said, we are working in our Health Services Department to develop a plan for administering those vaccinations. But no, currently, no, they don't have to have a vaccine, although I'm sure it'll make everybody feel a lot safer when vaccines are available for our kids and their staff members.
Great, thank you. Next question comes from Diane Flores. It looks like someone typed in a response, but there may be others who are curious for the same question. So what is the timeline for going back to school in person? Will there be a transition with the hybrid learning, or will it be 100% on in person?
I can respond to that, Veronica. I said earlier that our timeline prior to this recent surge was at the end of this month. We have tentatively agreed with STA that the end of the month would be our transition. Obviously, with the data being currently what it is in our county, that's going to have to be negotiated again. So we are looking, when we do discuss this with our teacher union, that somewhere in February, when it is safe, we are basing our return based on safety and the metric that the state of California developed. Right now, we're in what's called deep purple. We are nowhere near a potential return with our current status. So we will track our data. We would love to get out of purple into the red metric. Our push to yellow campaign is where we want to be. Yellow is we're all back. When we do come back, though, it's going to be a definite transition. It's go slow to go fast. Our primary focus right now is to get our younger students who are more dependent on teachers and instruction on campus, our TK6 students on campus first. There's a lot of research to suggest that's the target and the way we should start, and they're self-contained classrooms. They don't transition throughout the day like older school other students in middle school and high school. So our primary focus is our younger students, and that will be the transition. Once it's safe enough to do so, we start with the young students and then eventually get to the older students with the hybrid. They may not go to school every single day. They may go every other day. We're still working on that, because that's why that data collection is so very important. When we do survey our community, please take advantage of those so we know what would potentially come back. And when we say what potentially comes back, because parents have an option. We're not forcing you to come back live. You can continue to stay on distance learning, but you do have an option to eventually return, again, once it's safe to do so. And as soon as we have a timeline renegotiated with our teacher leaders and our union, we will definitely communicate that to our stakeholders.
Great, thank you, Mr. Biedermann. And the next question comes from Facebook from Renee Sankas. And the question is, will the cohorts and teachers get vaccinated? I think the question may be, when will cohorts and teachers get vaccinated?
I'll take that one again, Veronica. Right now, we're looking at 4 weeks out. So from today, 3 to 4 weeks out is when teachers in our system would be vaccinated. The county Office of Education is going to put a schedule together. We're not the only school district in the county. So for example, Tuesday, February 1st is Stockton Unified's Day. And then we would have that campaign and make sure that we get as many people over there. Right now, it's not a requirement that they get vaccinated. We have not gotten there yet. I know other districts down south are currently negotiating what that looks like, but our cohorts will start whether teachers or students are vaccinated or not. Per the California Department of Health and our current county Department of Health, there is no cohort guidance or metrics. We can have cohorts currently going now, whether we're in purple, red, or yellow. So that we're going to proceed based on that guidance from our county Department of Public Health again. And we're hoping that once the vaccinations are available, people do take advantage of it. Right now, it's not mandatory.
Thank you, Mr. Biedermann. Next question is also from Facebook from Rosie, and her question is, when kids go back to school, will buses be available?
Yes, when kids come back to school, we'll absolutely get back to our busing of students to school.
And can I add, Veronica, that also includes RTD in our city. So as soon as our students are able to come back live, that will also include our RTD public transportation.
Great. All right, well, next question is coming from Joan from Facebook. And the question is, will seniors get to walk for graduation this year?
I'll go. I just had this conversation with the parent. Again, that's all based on safety and whether there's two factors in play. Whether or not the county allows us to have mass gatherings like that. Right now, it would be an absolute no. Because again, we're in the shelter in place. As we get closer to graduation time at the end of May, early June, that may be lifted. And then, so that's one. So the county Department of Public Health has to say it's okay. And then two, the facilities that we would potentially use have to be open in order for us to use them. And a lot of those are indoors. The Stockton Arena, Delta College, UOP, right now they're all closed. So there's a lot of factors in play, but there's nothing that prevents us from pushing it later into the summer. So potentially walking in late June or July or August, because our kids haven't left for college just yet in the fall. So we would try to do the best that we can to ensure that our seniors have access to those great positive things that have been taken away from them right now, right, because of COVID. So we are planning that out. I literally just had a conversation with a parent about creating a graduation committee. So we get more of this talk now, as we know that we have to be very flexible moving forward, depending on our COVID numbers. But good question. Our intent is to hopefully allow them to walk. If not, we're going to have to get creative like we did last year with virtual graduations and drive-throughs and things like that to ensure our seniors get a little something to remember their high school career with.
Thank you. Our next question is an anonymous question from Zoom, and it says, regarding cohorts for special needs at Walton, are we anticipating those to begin in a couple of weeks? Is it the same timeline as regular education, or is there an option to start sooner?
I will take that one, Veronica. So our special ed cohorts can happen when our regular ed cohorts begin after school. Okay, so that's the timeline. It'll be the after school cohorts that will be made possible at that time.
Thank you. Next question is coming from Vanessa on Facebook, and her question is, hi, school bus driver here. Will there be provided PPE for school bus drivers or reduced amount of students per bus load? What are some of the ways for bus drivers to stay safe and keep students safe as well?
Yeah, those are both suggestions are going to happen. Yes, so there'll be plenty of PPE. And if you take a look at the SUSD safety and health guide, and you take a look at distance learning model, there's some sections in there about transportation. I recommend you to look at that process. Yes, there will have to be a reduced amount of students on the bus because we're going to stagger their seating. We're going to actually have some of the windows a little cracked for ventilation, things like that. And everybody will be wearing a mask. And before they even get on the bus, everybody's going to take that daily health symptom check just to make sure there's an inventory before they even go to the bus. So yeah, everybody should be following the same exact rules that when we're on campus, you'll see the same thing in our bus.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind everyone that you can also ask your questions here. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and drop your question in the chat and we'll add it to our queue. And if you're on Zoom, just go ahead and click that Q&A button to ask your questions to our panel. All right, next question is from Debbie on Facebook, and she is asking, if a teacher prefers distance learning, will that be possible to stay at home and do?
I'll take this one too. And Eric, you might want to, I was waiting for Eric. That is, when we do come back, we are going to have our teachers return. And that might have, it depends on the site. We bought all the technology and equipment to allow teachers to live stream their instruction. So they can be able to instruct live with the kids in front of them, and the kids at home that choose to stay home will get the exact same instruction. So we're very hopeful of that. So it doesn't put additional stress on our teaching force that they have to be worried about two different things, right? They do this exact same thing at the same time. When we do come back though, we are expecting all our teachers, unless there's some medical concern or a COVID related concern, we're expecting them all to return. So they won't necessarily have an option to stay home to remain on distance learning. The student will have that option, not the adult.
You're on mute, Veronica.
Thank you. That's the phrase of 2020, am I right? The next question from Facebook is from Renee again, and she's asking for some clarification about vaccine requirements. Is the COVID vaccine not on the list yet because it's new? Oh, Brian, you're on
Now
mute.
Brian's on mute.
Contagious. Right now, it's not a requirement. It's a recommendation. The California Department of Public Health and our County Department of Public Health is not a requirement. That may change in the future. We are not aware of that yet, but right now it's a recommendation. So it's not required that students have the vaccine in order to come to school. It is not required for adults to return to work with or without the vaccine. We're not there yet. It's simply a requirement, a recommendation, not a requirement.
And the one thing that I'll add on, I think Donna says in the chat on our end that I don't quote me on this, but I wish we had a nurse on the call, is that I don't believe the vaccines from Moderna or Pfizer that are currently available are recommended or even available for I think young people. I think under the age of 16. I believe that's accurate. So.
Yes, Eric, that's been confirmed with one of our healthcare professionals that it's that the vaccine is currently approved for age 16 and up at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Baird.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Anna here in our chat and Zoom, and she's asking if students go back to school, where will they eat their lunch and how will that work? Do we have a process?
Sure, all students that come back to our campus are going to get a grab and go meal, and that's going to include the breakfast for the next morning as well. That's going to happen daily on the way out the door, just because of the concerns of eating live on campus. You're taking your mask off, now all the droplets are coming out and having to actually spread people around. There will be some considerations for specific students that require that through processes of IEPs, things like that, that have just really specific medical recommendations for their nutrition. But everybody's going to get a grab and go just to make sure that students are as safe as possible when we return.
Thank you. All right, and the next question we have from Facebook is from Brianna, and she says, could you please give me a general idea of how cohorts will work? Also, what about students who will stay in distance learning? And to give some context, she has 12 special daycare camp students, or SDC students, and 4 assistants.
I can go, Veronica. Cohorts are optional. This is after the instructional day. So what they're currently doing during school day right now in distance learning, that doesn't go away. They can come onto campus if they choose to, and if the adults are there to receive them, whether it's tutoring or additional support, whatever that may be, after school. Typically looking at a window from 2:30 to 4:30. And when the cohort, they would remain in that cohort. So for example, if Mr. Biedermann is the English teacher and I have a cohort running, I am providing English support after school, I would take no more than 15 kids, because we have to stay under 16, into that cohort for that day. They could not move. They would stay with me the entire time, that 2:30 to 4:30, whatever it was, to get that ELA support and then go. Will there be special ed cohorts after school? Absolutely. We are not mandating our adults to do cohorts. It's completely optional for them. So it depends on the site. So if the site has special ed teachers, math teachers, English teachers that are willing to do cohorts after school, fabulous. If a site does not, then there may be, they may not be available on that particular site, because again, it is optional for the teacher, it's optional for the kid. So we will have a full host of what those offerings are once our cohort starts. They will be posted on the school's website, so a parent can see that on Monday, Hazelton's offering this. On Tuesday, Hazelton's offering that. So they would know when to bring their kids, their children potentially to school to take advantage of the cohorts.
Thank you. We have a frequently asked question here on Facebook. And the question is, will the vaccine be required when we go back to school for both students and staff?
Not yet. It's a recommendation, not a requirement. That could very well change depending on what happens. I know LA Unified is going through that right now where they're mandating it. Right now, it is a recommendation. It is not a requirement.
Thank you. Our next question is from Diana, and she's wondering what will, so does a school shut down when 2 cases are reported? She's asking for that clarification.
All right, so we're still actually changing those, or those recommendations continue to be updated. So it used to be 5% of the school. Now the publishment that is coming out from the county is really about 3 individuals in a cohort and 3 cohorts at a time. That's going to be published in our documentation as we revise our stuff. It's just another COVID update that continues to happen for us and how things are kind of ever changing for us. So it's kind of that magic ends up being a kind of about 9 if you look at it like that, but 3 individuals in a cohort and 3 cohorts are affected with that number. Then we'd be looking at school closures. And a cohort kind of basically consists of, think of a classroom.
Thank you for that. This next question is also regarding cohorts, and just for further clarification, they're wondering how cohorts will be assigned.
It's really going to be something that the site administrator develops with the teacher. Once we find out who our teachers are to come after school to help out and develop our cohorts, then the site administrators are going to make that available to the appropriate students. So if you do have any questions on how the cohorts are developing, I highly suggest you contact the site administrator to get a glimpse into that, what's being developed at the sites. The sites are just beginning to develop those cohorts now. So you might wait till next week to look up some of your principals, but I know they're actively trying to recruit teachers now and develop their cohorts.
Thank you. And a follow-up question to that from Tabitha Green on Facebook. Is there an option for students to be in both cohorts or all cohorts so they attend multiple days a week?
We're trying to keep the cohorts as pure as possible. So we're really trying to make sure that contamination is 0. So we're really trying to confine or keep students. So I don't like the word, use the word confine. We're trying to keep students into 1 cohort at a time. Some of those cohorts may change. Some of those cohorts may stop after 4 weeks and start a new cohort, and there would probably be a change then. But we just have to see when it gets going to see what's extremely safe for our kids. So once we initially put them together, we'll do some absolute checks on those and see how things are developing. And if we can make a change within the guidelines, we'll absolutely do that to ensure that kids get exactly what they need.
Right. And can I add on to that, Veronica? We're in conversations with Dr. Park as well to see how many cohorts a student can take advantage of in a given week. For example, if Monday I am in a cohort for English support, can I go to a math cohort, a different cohort on, let's say, Wednesday? And we do know, though, when you're in a cohort, you have to remain in that cohort, whatever that may be. That day you can't move. So it's 1 cohort a day. We know that. We're just seeing, we want to make sure that we're erring on the side of caution and make sure that the county public health officials are saying it's okay for Brian to be in a cohort on Monday and a different cohort on Wednesday and a different cohort on Friday to take advantage of everything that the student may need as far as different subjects, content areas, that type of thing.
Thank you for that. Our next question is from Leilani, and she would like to know when or will parents get an official notice to choose either distance learning or in person?
Yes, they will. As we get closer to an actual date, when our data holds firmly, they will be given an application. On that application, the parent is going to opt in to either have their students stay home on distance learning for a grading period, or have them opt into to the live instruction or back on campus for a grading period. So typically a grading period is 9 weeks. We can't have too much in and out, not knowing, because then we can't, safely maintain the distance learning, the exposures, those types of things. So the parents, when we get closer, they will get an application that they would fill out on site, probably a drive-through, like they picked up their Chromebooks and hotspots, that type of thing. And they are going to opt their child into distance, to remain in distance learning for that 9 weeks, or opt them into the live instruction. And then after the 9 weeks, depending on where we're at in the year, if there's a transition, they can change their mind or stay the same.
Thank you. Switching gears here a little bit, we have a question from Facebook from Margarita, and she is saying, with all the cuts coming soon, how are we going to facilitate a safe reentry for school?
Go ahead, Mr. Bieder.
The budget reductions are for the 21-22 school year. Right now, there are no cuts. And even when so right now we're operating business as usual. Even when we do have to reduce force into the next year, we are going to work harder, smarter, not harder, and maintain that same safety. We are not going to, in our reductions, take things away that would make our schools less safe as far as COVID and cleaning and those types of things. We have to commit to that. Otherwise, we'll never get our students back. But again, the reductions are not for this year, and the reductions moving forward next year, we're trying to reduce as far away from the classroom as possible in order to maintain that safety for our students so we can have eventual full return. Chris, did you want to add something to that?
That was perfect.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is asking about some information about our new Department of Public Safety and that change. So can we get some information about that name change?
Definitely. So the resolution that was passed by the board this last Tuesday was to change our name from Police Department to the Department of Public Safety. And we're really honored to have the support from the community to be able to make that change. We just feel that the name falls more in line with our current mission and vision, and also with our core values. You know, it's just more about what we are. We're not just your general police department that enforces, but we're a community department, you know, that reaches out. We provide mentorship. We provide all types of resources to our kids. And so we felt that although it might be a minor change, it's a very significant change because of the impact that words do have and, you know, the significance of the meaning behind it. And so we're really excited to move forward with our new name change and our cornerstones that we'll be implementing as well.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Yeah, we're really excited about this as well. Our next question is from Tiffany on Facebook, and she's asking, will students lose their space at their school if their parents opt for distance learning?
I can take that. B, just, you know, give you a rest. Absolutely not. I mean, it's an easy answer, right? You are a member of that school community, and the choice is yours. Our goal is to honor family choice when it comes to the decision to return to school or to continue on distance learning while we are in this pandemic. So no, that school community is yours. Thanks.
And our next question is anonymous from Zoom, and they're asking, in regards to the cohorts for elementary campuses, if the campus is a K-8 grade school site, will cohorts be open to all grades?
Yeah, cohorts are still going to exist in those grades as well. Again, it's really just about the teachers that are going to volunteer to work after school to support students. Once they're identified, then the site administrators start reaching out to parents to start filling those cohorts.
Okay, great. And I think we've mentioned this a few times tonight, but Carrie from Facebook is asking for clarification on when and what grades will go back when we do transition.
Good question, Carrie. We're going to focus on the classrooms that are self-contained, which is our younger students, the TK through 6th grade. Where they're not self-contained are typically of the older students, the middle school through high school. But we would go even slower than that. We would probably go TK3, get that done right, get those kids transition, and then go 4 through 6. And then if the data was holding and it's safe for us to do so, we would bring back our middle to high school. That was our tentative return. Our tentative return at the end of this month that we had with our teacher union was the TK6 return first, and then gradually bring in the more difficult bring in the hybrid model with our older kids that have to travel to other classrooms. They're not in one classroom all day, right? But we would go with our younger kids first, and then based on safety and data, go from there.
Great. And Carrie just followed up that question. Do we have estimated school hours?
For the return, for the return in a hybrid, it'll be 77 minutes, which is 240 minutes a day, and it should align with the original start time of whatever that school is, and then it's abridge it to 240 minutes. With the cohorts, they'll be after school roughly somewhere between 1:45 and 4 o'clock, and probably a 2-hour time frame in there.
Just a real quick follow up on what Chris said. 240 for our 4th through 12th grade, and then it's a small change, but 230 for 1st through 3rd, and 180 for our littles in TK. Yeah.
And Danielle.
Although Chris, I'm off for 240 for the littles if you want.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Danielle from Facebook is also asking now about preschool. What about preschool? Will they be joining and returning as well?
Preschool will be joining. They are attached to the same timelines, the same topic. And I appreciate, yeah, the times that Mr. Swanson outlined. But yeah, they will be returning the same times as we do.
Great. And with that, I believe that was our last question that we've received tonight. So that was an incredible Q&A. Thank you to our panel for all those answers. And thank you to everyone who participated. Before I turn it back over to Interim Superintendent for our closing, I'd first like to thank our team behind the scenes for making this event possible. That's Juancho Forlanda, Justin Swanson, Dr. Shelley Spessard, and our amazing interpreters, Maria and Melita. And with that, I'll turn it over
Veronica, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's 2 other questions on the Q&A.
Oh, I see them now. Okay, it looks like we had answered one of them. Oh, they're new ones. Okay, let's see. What rules will be put into place if there is a return to school? For example, will there be punishments for not wearing face masks?
Yes, so I'll take this one. There's definitely going to be an expectation for all our students and adults to maintain safety, and that includes wearing a mask and remaining socially distant. And just like with all of the things that, as it relates to our expectations for students, when they fall short of those, we do redirection and we lean on families for support and other support staff on campuses for the support. But we are there. It is very clear that is not a negotiable thing, that we are going to hold the high standard of students keeping their masks on all day and remaining socially distant. We also do understand some of our students are as young as 4 and 5 years old, and them keeping their masks on, we get that. So there'll be lots of redirects, but your student safety is paramount for all of us, and our teachers, of course, and the staff on our campuses.
Thank you. And the second question that had come in, is there any talk of inviting board members to one of our SUSD talks?
I'll take that one. Absolutely. Our board is informed of all of our SUSD talks. I think there are some board members on the actual call right now, but they're always invited. And I think it would be a great opportunity for them to also be a panelist so they can provide insight if a community member has a question specific to a trustee. It's a great idea, but they have in the past been at all of our, maybe not all of them, but some of them have attended our talks to get a community perspective of what's going on.
Great, thank you. And with that, that was our last question of the night. Oh, just kidding. Oh wait, that was the actual question. Okay, there we go. All right, well, Superintendent Biedermann, I'll pass it back over to you then for our closing.
Great. And again, I just want to thank the team. Veronica, great job tonight. Team, I can't tell you how proud I am to lead this group of people and to lead during a time that is very chaotic, right? I mean, COVID and the pandemic. And I was challenged because one of my colleagues read a quote. So I'll read a quote too. It may be stormy now, but rain doesn't last forever. That's deep, right? So we will get through this. This is something that our team is dedicated to making sure that our staff and our students are safe. We are going to get through this. We are closer than we've ever been to putting this pandemic as behind us as much as we can, right? It's not going to be perfect. I can't tell you what COVID's going to do tomorrow, but we have a vaccine. We have all the measures that we talked about in place. We are going to get kids back on our campuses soon because we know that they need to be. Our adults need them on campus as much as the kids need our adults, right? So I'm very thankful tonight. Our next SUSD talks, if I remember correctly, is in 2 weeks from today on the 28th from 6 to 7:30. So community out there, we are committed to doing this for every 2 weeks until we are back. So we want to keep you up to date. If you remember one of our guiding principles, it's to over communicate to our community. And this is an opportunity to do that. I'm very thankful for the positive interaction and an attempt for us to answer questions so parents and students can make informed decisions on whether or not they return to school. So with that, Veronica, team, I'm very appreciative and have a wonderful evening.